All right. Hello, hello. Welcome everyone back to This is Fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
It's good. Good.
Happy
here.
hour. Winter is here, even though not really here, but sure feels like it. It's fine. It's
happy hour.
It's not. Oh, we got some echo.
Sorry, that was me. So
WaLLrus.
excited.
It's definitely not winter where you are. What'd you say the temperature was, sir?
It is roughly 105. In fact, it is so hot, guys. It's wild. So, like for LO, you guys know I always do like little walk-in talks. So, like,
and you're back from Egypt, right?
Nice and clean. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you would think, right? You would think leaving the desert, it would get cooler. It doesn't. Right. The last time I was out shooting a walk-in talk, I was out for about 10 minutes and the phone shut down. It was so hot, the camera was like, hey, we're done. We're not doing this.
Dang. That is
that kind of hot.
I mean, there's some hot places around. I was just in Europe, and in Milan it was like 103, 104 basically.
Ooh.
It was cooking.
Those boys ain't meant for that.
No, people are just like chilling in outdoor cafes, fucking eating hot ass pasta, and I'm like melting just watching them. I'm like, it's impressive.
You need the cold beer and not like wine and pasta. But
it's like that in the Middle East, man. It'll be 1,000,000 degrees and they're just drinking boiling hot tea and coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Or gala.
I mean, they do heavy on the Aperol and Negroni style spritzes. So, you know, if you're looking for your cold, if you need ice in your beverage, that's the classic go-to in my mind is for an Aperol spritz.
Well, let's go through some welcomes right now. It seems to be like lower attendance. I don't know why. Like in all the streams, I don't know what's happening. Like all the streams that I'm watching, like the viewership is down. What's up, Escatar, Hexacat? What's going on? Footsteps, what's going on? Vets and Crypto, what's up? I see Russ, DJ and Dougie, what is going on? Piston Honda broke. No, Piston Honda. Shout out to Mike Tyson's Punch Out, one of my favorite games on the original NES. Yes. And everybody else, Godfather, what's going on? A lot of people, you might be coming over, but from RH Max, we were watching him in the green room. Actually, him and Coffee having a good chat. And right after this is done, you can find the guy below me, Mr. WaLLrus, over on Class's channel with, I believe, Sloth. Is that correct?
Yeah, Sloth, Hot Pro. It's kind of a whole panel thing. Pretty cool.
Nice. Sweet.
Yeah, I've got a chance to talk with Sloth a handful of times. We haven't been on a stream together. Same thing with like Hard Pro. I haven't talked to Claus in a long time, so that ought to be a fun one.
Nice. Yeah, I will definitely look forward to that one. What else we have here? Vets and Crypto again. What's up? Yes, Metallic Elmo. Please remind the viewers that PDAI is not a stablecoin. Stablecoins don't need price charts. I mean, yeah, there you go. Any thoughts on PDAI? It wasn't even on the list, but we can, WaLLrus, do you have any thoughts on it, Mr. Liquid Loans professional?
Guys.
Yeah.
Guys. So DAI is not, everyone kind of just looks and they're like, oh, it's backed by USDC and they bought $700 million worth of treasury bonds in June or July. Like their real world assets are, I think, 30% of their whole portfolio. You guys do what you want, man. Like, again, charts are speculative. I guess it's as good a meme as anything else. So
it's as good a meme as anything else. That was well said. Yeah, that's about all I can say about it. Like, holy shit.
That's my only thing. Like, I guess to Elmo's point, it's not a stable coin. Pegging it makes no sense as far as from a stable coin perspective.
Like, you can't back a stable coin with hope. Like, that's right. Like, I mean, you could back it with dollars as long as it'll last, but the underlying premise is hope with this thing rather than something that a Liquid Loans.
I mean, it's a price show, right? Like, people can do whatever they want, but I think, really trying to, again, if people want to, like, again, it's as good a meme as anything else. And if people want to speculate on it, cool. But it's much closer to tulips than it is to a real stable coin. So that's the only thing, right? Like, just if people are having a good time, they're making money and they're gambling back and forth, rock and roll. That's not my cup of tea. But again, everyone get after it, have a good time. Just the only issue again is when it sucks in like newbies or people who don't actually understand this thing. It can go to $1. It can go to $1 million. You can do whatever the chart wants, whatever people want to buy. But the idea that it's going to like operate as DAI at some point is
that is
as Eshkatar eloquently points out, might as well launch a stable backed by unicorn farts. There you go.
True.
Okay. Let's get into some more.
If that was redeemable, I'll buy some.
Hey, what do you got in the old pipe there? Unicorn gas there, Big K?
I pulled out this tube that says abused on it because I'm feeling that way.
Apropos. Yep.
Right now. It's a little strawberry cough, strawberry pancake cross, which it's musky, but flavorful with a fruitiness. So
before we 100% roll off from the PDI guys, I do want to give a bit of a tip of the hat that while it's occultism, black magic, craziness that they're trying to attach to the thing as far as stabilization, those guys did go do some really cool blockchain what do you call it, forensics. Like they went through and looked and saw that that there are some things done on the contracts, that they were activated early. So I think that kind of where they came to it is kind of silly, but those guys did go do some cool stuff and pulled out some interesting things. So
very much.
I mean, that's why
it's lasted this long, I think.
Stuff, right?
I've seen some insane deep dives on that and the corresponding what is it? I don't even know, Atropa or something or whatever. Yes, that it's fan fiction that I would love for there to be some truth in it. It's hilarious. It's exciting, but but people, I feel like the price charts are down and we're grasping at straws here.
Yeah.
So I just again I was like you guys know me. I want to always try to be fair and lean into cool stuff and props to those guys for looking around and trying to find something fun and interesting and publishing their facts again, whether we agree or whether they're even being genuine about thinking it'll peg. They did go find some interesting stuff that was kind of interesting and they made a what do you want to call it? Made it a news cycle for a week. So kudos to actually doing some research and finding cool stuff.
I mean, and even in all of that, even if it's all just a giant ruse, like it
was fun.
It's something to do on Pulsechain. Hey, all right. Well, speaking of, let's get into a couple topics while we got WaLLrus here. So I know WaLLrus, you've over the past few weeks have been on numerous spaces, shows, whatnot. Obviously, we have parts of those audiences in here, plus we have a bunch of our own regulars. After having, I guess, weeks to digest everything now, where's your current mindset with the whole SEC Richard Hart thing? Has anything changed in your mind? Do you feel more or less confident as time has gone on? Just, I guess, your thoughts on that while we have you.
So I think at a high level, there's a couple of big things that I think gives people some framing. So I think that a lot of misallocation, the fraud, the sort of stuff that is really grabby and makes people uncomfortable, all of that is basically a crux of, are they investor funds and is it a security, right? So it's kind of a bouncing ball there. And I think that the primary reason that they brought a lot of that in is unregistered securities aren't entertaining, but the big guy in Gucci and $1 billion, that's a catchy headline, right? So if you want to do some of this character assassination and sort of bring in all this just messiness, right? Then you have to have the other side. So if you look at it, I think that's a big part of why all that is there to some degree. The big ones I thought were the claim for jurisdiction in New York is pretty silly when it comes to a Uniswap being housed there. That's pretty crazy. But I think overall people look at it. So one, people looked at a lot of this is kind of a pro and con. If they looked at a lot of the factual inaccuracies and timing, let alone sort of the leaps and what do you want to call them, conclusions they jump to. One is, I think there's something valuable there because, again, if they had made these claims and it was stuff the community wasn't very aware of, okay, maybe that was a bigger deal. But there's nothing really that's not pretty well known by the community. It's basically how they view it versus how we view it in a lot of ways. So they can adapt those things and basically update that as they go. So it doesn't mean that they're sort of stuck in this wrongness, but I think it does go to show that, it wasn't like found out that he was El Chapo, right? Like, it's just, hey, they saw how everything went. They had their own take on it. But I've been, so I think that is kind of just is what it is until we see what route they want to go. Where I have been more bullish is on what XRP, Coinbase, some of the amicus briefs filed from like the Crypto Blockchain Association around the investment contract. And this is one of those things that I know sometimes it can seem methodical, but like why I hammer in on language so often, because it can be one of my big mentors that I learned from said, you miss deals over a few words, not a few dollars. So like that got drilled into me when I was really young, that like it's words, not dollars, that miss a lot of these things. And I think what we'll see is that the SEC is already backing in some ways away from trying to fight these things as securities. They've already kind of talked about moving to AI. Hester Peirce and a few people have already kind of put out contradictory statements in some ways. She's, I think what I call her, the godmother to crypto. So I think if you look at those guys fighting like, hey, these are not investment contracts. Like, this is what an investment contract is. Stop trying to like call this thing an investment contract now. We know what an investment contract is. So I think that where I'm pretty positive is I think there's plenty of grounds for RH to do his own thing, to handle jurisdiction, but that I think that a lot of the meat and potatoes that handles the rest of this will be dealt with by other guys handling this stuff ahead of time. So I'm sort of more bullish that we'll have better answers that don't even directly come from the case.
All right. I like it. So I saw Bittrex settled their case for, I believe it was 24 million. I just want your quick take on this because I found the dates interesting. So they were charged by the SEC mid-April. I think it was like the 17th. So that went on for like 2 months-ish. Bittrex was like, okay, we're going to file for dismissal. I think it was like the beginning of July. And wouldn't you know, like a little over a month later, they settled with the SEC August 10th. So that was a little less than 4 months because I believe their hearing might have been scheduled for like mid-August, something like that. So the SEC is filed, I guess, against Richard on 7/31. The hearing date is 11/28, which is 4 months away. Do you think there's any likelihood that there could be a settlement, like a Thanksgiving miracle, if you will? Or is he just in this to win this? Is it a long and drawn out fight? Because the bullish side is, yes, settle this and, let this ecosystem breathe and grow again. And the bearish side is, this is a stalemate for years and everybody loses interest. And this is just, playing with ourselves.
So one quickly is I just want to touch on this. It's kind of its own rabbit hole, and it's just not really a fun topic, but the game is rigged when it comes to how these things play out when it comes to settlements. And it's the same thing in the criminal side, right? So and that's the reason those guys file for dismissal, and the reason that you just see some of the structures that you see in criminal litigation as well as civil. Part of the issue is the game is not fair from the beginning. Both sides can't lose. Only our side can lose. SEC doesn't lose. They're unelected. It's not their money.
Yep.
Who cares, right? Now, again, there's a little more to it, but essentially they can't lose. So the game's rigged right there in the first place. The other, and again, the reason I bring up the criminal side is when you look at a lot of cases, even if somebody did it or didn't do it or is close to it or they did something that can be interpreted this, however, what are we going to get to where it's gray? What usually will happen is, hey, you can plead guilty and take a year. But if you don't take the deal and you force us to go to the house and you want to go put this in front of people and take that risk, then they're going to hammer you. And because whatever the settlement versus what a ultimate loss could be is so far away, it just becomes a cost of doing business thing. And it's gross because then they get to say, oh, we never lose cases. And it's the reason that every DA has some 90+% when it comes to winning cases. It's not fair. They can hold up other people's funds. They can do civil forfeiture, whether it comes to on the bail side on criminal. Like there's just so many aspects to this that impair one side that do not impair the other. The SEC doesn't have to put up their money. Gary Gensler doesn't have to show up. Gary Gensler doesn't have to drop his pants. Those guys don't have to do anywhere near those same things. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that even settling is not really an admittance of wrong guilt. It's a cost of doing business at some point and trying to decide what's the better risk here. And again, as you put out, like time is not on our side, it's on their side. So a lot of that stuff, man, it's just not okay. And the more you like really work into it and see this stuff at most levels, it's gross. And that's kind of a funny point there about terminology. Is this a fee or a fine? But if I would assume that, again, it has a lot to do with what's going on with what goes on with these other cases, because I think they're pretty close. Like if, again, if this investment contract side, if they do nothing on XRP, because that one's a little interesting about what they've gone with Judge Torres. And if you go all the way to the Supreme Court has pretty consistently over this last decade basically reeled those guys back in when it gets up that high toward, hey, this is what you guys are supposed to do. This is far outside of your purview. So I think if we see Brad Garlinghouse and the XRP boys, again, there's a lot of these other things going on around it. Like, again, if you lose ground on investment contracts, it's harder to call these things securities, secondary sales. Basically, if you get into all the side where I think that they could lose a lot of ground before this even gets to a case. And so I could see it pretty easily that they want to file for a dismissal, challenge on jurisdiction, and basically, again, I think that they could easily win those. I think those are valid, but also just let everybody else fight for a bit. So,
and that kind of looks like if you look at the Bittrex timeline, again, completely different cases, but like as you were saying, if they file for dismissal, Bittrex did it after a couple months, and then as you said, kind of like let it marinate, and then two sides end up coming together. In that case, maybe it could happen with this. Obviously, we don't know behind the scenes what was going back and forth, but it's an interesting point to think about. And again, I would just think far better for the ecosystem. The sooner this gets resolved, the better. With things up in the air, that's just nobody wants to hop in and put their money in something that it's a blockchain, yes, and we can say that all we want, but the optics are also key. You want a flourishing system. You want still, dare I say, the founder to be himself for the next, say, couple years. I know everybody's begging for a stream. We don't need a stream right now. There's probably reasons why he's not doing that. Very good reasons. But if he does re-emerge, I think that would be huge after, the language is settled and everything's good to go.
There's also just like what's going on with the Tornado Cash guys. The legal stuff is a little complicated for most of us. It's just hard to really stay engaged with, even if you care. But part of the reason for some of the settling and stuff, I really recommend that people check out what you have with Tornado Cash. One, privacy is important, all those natural things. But guys, if you read the rationale around charging both the Romans and Alexei, that shit would not hold up anywhere ever for anything else. And I bring that up only to say that, like, guys, this stuff's just not fair. So you can put out all the writing and say that things are freedom of speech. And I'm not saying I disagree with any of those mentalities, but at some point, if you can just pay to play and go on and go build cool stuff, it's probably going to be worth it at some point. So I know there's a lot of rallying around the like fight the SEC stuff. And again, I get it. I'm not disagreeing with sentiment. I'm just looking at it as a pragmatist that is a rigged game and those guys don't play fair. So you may just have to at some point just play the game. The more you go into those things, the more you're just like, guys, is this really what we're doing? It's tough stuff. I brought up, and I'll kind of wrap up here. I brought up a lot of times, speaking of the unicorn farts that Big K has up there, that I think that what we saw with marijuana is actually pretty similar to what we're seeing and what we will see with crypto, where you have acceptance, where they push lines here. So Colorado basically was like, hey, F you guys, right? Like they took a pretty firm stance early on. California similar, but you see this variety of, even inside of cities, hey, it's street criminalized here. Hey, it's not really an issue here, opposite stances. And I think that's what we're seeing. So Wyoming, Florida, you're seeing places push back and say, hey, we're anti-CDC. Hey, we're more interested in doing these different things around banking and charter banks. You're seeing Texas talk about a gold back, issuing a stable coin. And then you have New York, which is like everything's security. We hate all you guys. Everything's stupid but the dollar. You know, that Sherman take. So I think we're going to see similar to what we saw with marijuana, where there's not just there's pockets of acceptance and disagreements, and that we realize that government isn't just this singularity, and that we, you know, again, there's a lot of jockeying trying to hold things down so they get their horses up. You know, I brought up Paxos. So they had a Wells notice for BUSD when it came to Binance. And then now Paxos is issuing PayPal stablecoin. So clearly it wasn't an issue with Paxos. It was an issue with who's playing, right? And again, I think we'll find out a lot about Binance. I'm not backing Binance. I'm just getting at that the game is pretty difficult, and they have a lot of leverage to, you know, it's not banned. You just got to file this form. Where's that form? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great.
They want certain people to find those forms. And I bet you, you know, just as you were saying, you know, they you know, control the gate as to who plays. BlackRock, amazingly, will get a Bitcoin ETF. Amazingly enough, you know, after, you know, maybe the first, but I think there will be more. But anyway, we should hear a decision on at least the Grayscale thing any day now, right? I thought. Yep. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Grayscale, Fidelity, BlackRock, a lot of big players are stepping on ETFs. I've seen mixed reports. I haven't seen conclusions yet, but like there's that big, huge, like $3 billion BTC wallet. I saw originally people thought it was BlackRock. And then I think I saw recently people saying that it was Robinhood. So I think we're seeing that. I mean, this has been going on since like late last year, you know. Jamie Dimon was like, oh, the stuff pet rocks. Also, we want an ETF. Also, Coinbase, we want to be your custodian, but also they're pet rocks. It's like, guys, pick a side here. So I think we're going to see that this cross current will continue for a long time. And there's not just pivoting in our ecosystem, but there's pivoting in general. Like this digitization. We talk about like nomad capitalists. Like you can, we saw some with like the Panama Papers a few years ago. I think that not only do we sort of have like all these issues with crypto, but like they're just trying to get a hold on this thing again. Like information moves too fast. People can move too fast. You can have businesses here and your money here and then your person here. So I think it's not just crypto. I think they're just really trying to get a hold on this whole thing again in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you just talked about JP Morgan. I just brought up their headline from this morning that, oh my gosh, they think crypto downside is limited. Look who's on the side of crypto now. Amazing timing. Georgia, what's going on? Yes, it is Walrus in the flesh, trying to get that nice cigar lit. What are you smoking on there?
This is a Killer Bee. It's from Blackworks. So these guys are their owner is good friends with a cigar shop that I really like down here in Austin. So some of their stuff, they're pretty small guys, but man, their stuff is fantastic. Really enjoy it.
Nice. Love me a good cigar. The Dominicanos, like those are some of my favorites, really. And of course, can't go wrong with the Cubans. Well, we got you for like 5 more minutes, man. Can you give us any updates and or timetables, not just with liquid loans, but these very much look forward to projects that everybody's been excited about for years coming to Pulsechain, and then it's like we got there and we hit the brakes, and the brakes weren't out of that was out of our control. It seems like a situation that was. So everybody seems like, and I could be wrong, so just tell me if I am, has taken a step back, maybe like a regroup. Maybe there's other things that are being worked on. I've seen that with a project or two that are still being worked on, which is still okay. Perfect is good or optimal. We don't need anything that's not 100% ready to launch. So where are we with some of these? And of course, talk your book too.
So Pulsechain Safe. So we put out a kind of a lightweight version of Gnosis. So there's multi-sig that just went live. We've had it live. We were playing with a few things. I think we actually tweeted out like the actual URL. So pulsechainsafe.com. That's live. So you can go on there and now you can go create multi-sig wallets. It's available. There's no charge. There's no token. It's just utility. Go hammer on and you guys can use it. We are going to, one of the things that people were having issues with like SECRH app and being able to get some of that stuff got off there. So we are going to, their UI is really tricky, the Gnosis stuff, because they have a lot of interesting stuff built on top. So we are going to work on being able to load previous safe sense so that people with SECRH can get on and do some things. So Pulsechain Safe is live. All the audits, all the stuff on LL is 100% done. Front end, all that good stuff. It's ready to rock. So what we're finishing up with is Fetch, which is the Oracle. And the contracts are with how the same guys who did all the audits with for all our contracts on LL. I believe we got the draft report. We've been talking with the guys actually doing it, going through things. We kind of got the, hey, there's no issues here. We just got to go through and do all the smoke test and final looks over. And there's always some small tweaks you have to do. There's always a little something, right? So that should be wrapped up very, very quickly. And this is so contracts are separate from like things you build on top. So like front ends and all that stuff's differently. So we're going to have Fetch out in a simplified way because multiple different projects are going to be using Fetch, Power City, a few other guys, as well as LL. And we don't really want to hold up all, again, as you said, we don't want to hold up all these other projects. So Fetch will come out here very soon. Basically, as soon as that audit's done, we're going to get rocking. But we do have a dispute monitor that we're building on top, which will help with basically all these reporters challenging different prices. And then we will also building a crazy cool front end for Fetch. So there's a lot of development that's going on that we're not going to hold things up for that, but that'll be stuff that comes down the pipeline. And then basically as soon as Fetch is up and those first couple of reporters, LL's on a timeline. So as soon as the LL Fetch audit is done, which is days, week, 2 week kind of time. I mean, it's like we're right there finishing it. It's Fetch will go live and then LL's coming right after it. And then again, you're going to see all these other guys that are waiting on the Oracle come out right after us, essentially.
So before Halloween, you're saying there's a chance?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we're aiming for very, very quick.
Okay, nice. Let's see. Ghostbusters, I guess this is in reference to the 2-year lock. What happens to the 2-year hold on Liquid Loans coins? Since it will come out soon. We have already waited 2 years for those coins. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they're still going to be locked. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct. It's from the launch of contracts.
Yeah. Let's see. So I think we got that there. Anything else? A little football real quick before you go. Who you like in this season? I know you like a little wager every now and then. Anything that you're eyeing up? Do you do team props or just player props? What do you like?
So I love the fantasy stuff. That's the stuff that's the most fun because then you kind of get engaged with different players. And I like some of the deep, crazy formats just because like you get into more players like who's better, like Saquon or Jonathan Taylor. It's like, who cares? Like, they're all great, right? So like the deeper leagues get into some of the fun knowledge stuff. As far as like some of the prop stuff, I like a lot of the stuff around the Dolphins because a lot of them are depressed because they're basically hedging on whether or not Tua can stay healthy. And concussions are nothing to play with, but in general, like injury bug is not that common. Usually that stuff happens with like soft tissue stuff, people with hamstring issues. That stuff can kind of be sticky, but you don't really see. There's not that many guys that are really sticky around injury stuff. So if Tua's healthy, those boys are going to rip, and a lot of his passing yardage, Dolphin over, Tyreek, Waddle, all those guys are some pretty big plays. You're basically just betting, are they healthy? If they're healthy, they're going to clear all that stuff. So there's some fun ones there.
And I saw they were like in the market for Jonathan Taylor, which would be quite interesting if they landed that cog out of Indy, man, because that guy is a horse. And
I don't know what the Shanahan's deals is with. They can go grab anybody from a bus stop and make them a great running back, and somehow they also spend the most amount of resources on running back. Like the same teams who had Raheem Mostert for like $30,000 a year, and Jeff Wilson and Elijah Mitchell, who's like a 5th or 6th round pick, just crushing it. But then they go spend a third on Trey Sermon. They spend a third on Tyrone Davis-Price. They go trade the house for CMC and pay them.
Yep.
It's like, gosh, you're already getting production from nothing. Like, why do they keep overpaying? So same thing with Miami. They were in the market for Dalvin. I think they were lightly attached with Zeke. So it's silly to me that the team that seems to need running back talent the least is willing to pay the most for it. But that's the nature of the beast. That's the other stuff. So I like a lot of the economic side of how those things work out. So running backs are tough. You want them to get paid, but again, it's a fairly replaceable spot. And, there's a lot of that, a lot of the production is pretty much paired with like offensive line and scheme. So I actually, just from a want to watch, fun to watch stuff, I hope they don't get JT because I like Devon A-Chain. He's a Texas boy. And anytime there's like a dude who's 5'7", just sprinting at 4.3 flat out there, he's just super fun to watch. So hopefully they get him involved. We'll get to see some cool stuff with him and Mike McDaniels. Their head coach is a goober, man. He's wild. So I like to see a lot of that stuff, man. If you haven't watched Mike McDaniels, that is the least looking head coach ever.
Looking, sounding, like the whole thing is very weird, but he's just like this skinny little man walking around with a clipboard yelling things into his headset, and it's just like, this guy's a football coach, but he runs a great offense and has done well with the Dolphins so far, so you can't argue.
He looks like a stone director of IT.
There you go.
And he's a fantastic coach. I love him, man. He's brilliant. A lot of the cool stuff they were doing there is really fun. The Dolphins are one of my favorite teams as far as like what they have going on interesting wise, like from just like let's check it stuff out. Tua's left-handed. They do RPO stuff. They've got two of the most athletic wide receivers. It's just really engaging, right? Like they're silly fast. So they'll be a fun team to watch. There's a lot of cool stuff there.
Hexacat mentioned the Jets. That's going to be a fun team to watch this year too.
Ooh, boy. We'll see what they can, if Aaron comes back healthy. Robert Saleh, their head coach, is really their DC. He's a brilliant guy. They have a good rotation at D-line, and you get smart defensive coaches like a rotation, and they've got fresh guys rushing, then they can get really interesting on, dropping 8 or dropping 7 guys into coverage and, rotations and doing funny stuff. So if those guys can get pressure early on, then they can do really, really tricky stuff on the backside. So, if Jermaine Johnson and all those guys get it done up front, then they'll be a fun team to watch. That whole division is going to be fun because they got a lot of firepower. Oh, we got the Bears.
The Bears.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's Big K territory there.
Yeah. We're in a bit of a rebuild, time right now. I mean, I think that we're going to have a much better offensive line than we've had in the past year. That'll be nice to see. But I think that sadly, as a Bears fan, our defense is not going to be where we would like it to be this year. I think it's going to still be a bit of a sieve out there. So that's kind of tough.
You got, although I do DJ Moore, right?
Yeah.
That's a good pickup.
No, there's some good pickups that we've made, and I do think that like they've put us in the right direction. I've watched some Bears years just be like, oh, where are we going? But I do think that having some of those fields. I mean, Justin Field, is definitely looking the part. The second half of last year, he's looking the part. So I think that he'll he's going to grow. So I think that's going to be nice to see. But I definitely think that it's going to be a tough year. Maybe since the Packers suck a lot too, we could beat them. That'll be cool. There's potential there. So we'll take the small victories where we can. But I'm definitely not putting anything on any Vegas odds for them this year. I agree that the Dolphins is one of my other favorites, so it's good to see them. Like everything you said was pretty spot on. So,
Cole Kmet, is he back?
Yeah, he got paid.
He got a decent end to the season, probably knowing that he was up for getting paid. So
so he'll be back with some incentive. So that's great too.
The Bears will have something that's kind of interesting whenever you get like a big stud like DJ Moore. Because you kind of think of like what it was plus DJ. But what's kind of interesting is that how these things like fall down, right? So when you have like Mooney was gone last year, Claypool kind of came in late. But when you have a guy like DJ Moore, he's just good, right? Like he's just a killer, right? So if you have DJ Moore, you have to play DJ heads up and play him fair, right? So if you have to play him fair, and then you have like Mooney, who's not complete, but got aspects to him. Well, now he's dealing with your number 2. So now he's a lot more effective because he doesn't have to deal with, an AJ Terrell or a Sauce Gardner. And then you got a guy like Claypool, who's a 3. And even if he's not all around sophisticated, you got to find a third guy. So not your favorite and not your second favorite, but your third favorite guy has to go up against a guy who's 6'4" and a beast. And even if he's not perfect, so that I like the trickle down of having a big guy come in. So I think it'll be interesting to see what we have going on with like, not just, just DJ Moore, but like how do these other guys sort of change up when they go from like, hey, you're not a good 1, but you're a good 2. You're an okay 2, but you're a great 3. So we'll get to see some cool stuff folded down there.
That's true. That's true. I see how that opened up. I mean, even back in the Bears, the last time we haven't had any sort of success in the passing game, really, it was like when we had Brandon Marshall, and that changed the game up for all the smaller receivers along the way too. So I can see it.
Any final note on some of the bigger, I guess, more expected teams there? You got Chiefs, Bengals, Bills. Anybody stand out? Anybody you think is not worth the hype? And you worry about Joe Burrow's industry.
I'm bearish on the Bengals.
Yeah. You're bearish on the Bengals?
Yep. Yeah. So they have they're really efficient in a few different spots that are kind of interesting. But the big one is people forget how good their defense was because they have Burrow and Chase and Higgins like that. That's just what you talk. But their defense was really stacked, and they lost a few pieces. And I can't remember what the stat was, but they basically played backup quarterbacks a ton throughout the season, and that kind of cushions them along the way. So you already get into just Burrow repeat, right? Like, so for them to just be as good as they were. And now again, I think Burrow's awesome, but he's got to be great. And I think Chase is awesome, but he's got to be great. To kind of have that same tier on offense. And then I don't see their defense doing the same thing. So when you're a lot of what they do is sort of, hey, but no matter what you do, Chase is going to beat you on the edge. If that just doesn't hit quite the same, then now you got to be a lot different on the rest of the spot. And I don't think their defense will do the same. So I don't think they're going to be terrible, but I don't think we're going to I think they're kind of like locked in as like a top 4, top 5 team. And I think that they'll be just good.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, they're, consistently, it's a lot of that. They're going to have to repeat some massive success,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Bills, Chiefs, any other Super Bowl picks? I mean, we usually throw one out in the years that we've done this show. A little too early yet. I mean, Big K and I can do one here in a couple weeks, but we might not see you for a minute. WaLLrus, any favorites on your mind?
My mother will haunt me, and I will probably not be able to sleep for a week.
Who watches the show, by the way? Hello, Mom of WaLLrus. He's about to
she passed a few years ago. She was a diehard Cowboys
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No worries. So, like when I say diehard, I mean like I have a bear that was made out of some of her Cowboy shirts. Like it's like an absurd Cowboys fan.
That reminds me of my grandmother.
Yeah,
years passed away as well, and I came out of the womb in Cowboys gear, and I knew nothing else. Being close to DC, I'm supposed to be a Redskins fan, and Freddie Quotes gives me crap about this all the time, and many of my other friends do. How could you be a Cowboys fan? That's all I knew as a kid. I came out wearing the gear, basically, and all the pictures of myself as a child is like me and Danny White gear for Halloween, and just all sorts of little fun Cowboys things. So I get it, man. I get it.
So speaking of, hopefully both of those fine ladies don't hear this. Man, the Niners are stacked. I like that roster a lot.
All right.
And they've got some buoyancy now with their backup with like Darnold, which he isn't great, but again, that's the nature of the beast with those guys. If they keep a quarterback healthy, they're nasty, and there's some hitters.
They're still the Redskins to me too, Hexacat. So join the movement. Well, nice. I like that pick, and I mean they have who's the QB? Is it still going to be
Purdy?
Okay. No controversy.
Mr. Irrelevant, man.
Okay.
So he was one of those guys that if you look at certain stuff, he was a beast. He played Arizona State, Iowa State. I always get that confused. At Iowa State, and it's not to be like a comparison to Brady, but a Brady style quarterback. It's hard to bet on those guys because the error of margin is thin, but when they're over it, they're fantastic. And because Purdy doesn't have a lot of he doesn't have a cannon, he's not 6'5", he doesn't have all that stuff that you can kind of bank on. They don't really get taken very high, but I liked a lot of his game at Iowa State. He was a fun player to watch. So it'll be cool to see if he repeats. And then, again, Darnold's got a few things about him that are, again, if you got a guy like Kyle Shanahan, he can put it together. So they'll be fun, man.
Nice. Well, there we have.
And also, like, if you got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle, like, I can play quarterback, man.
Ayuk's underrated too. He started to come out a bit last year. Finally, again, he had a great year a couple of years ago, and then kind of went silent, and then got back to relevancy again.
I'm just saying, if you got 4 aliens around you, then like stuff's a lot easier to get stuff done. So those guys are a lot of fun.
A lot of Redskins love in the chat. Yes.
All right, boys. Well, I'm gonna step inside and cool off a bit, and then try to look professional here in 20 minutes.
Yes, look professional for those ladies. At the top of the hour, go over to Klaz's channel like we did a couple weeks ago. She's got yourself. She's got Sloth, and I guess co-hosted with Hot Preel, and who else?
Hot Preel. I should know. I'm pretty sure. I think there's one other person on there, isn't there?
I think there might be 2 or 3. Maybe Raquel is one.
Yeah. Raquel's gonna be on there. Who's it was a lot of fun when me and Kay were there for the premiere. She got a chance to come out. So that was fun.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw like I guess a bunch of pictures. She was like really thrilled to meet a bunch of the OG crew, so that was cool to see. And
got a chance to shake Big K's hand. Can confirm.
Yes.
In person also.
Yes, that was awesome, man. Had a ton of fun at that. It was I mean, wild experience. I mean, I'm still just getting over it. I went over and did the London release too as well a couple days ago. So that was
Hexo shows up in cargo shorts.
Yeah.
Everyone's dialed out. Man. It cracked me up. It's just, that's on brand, so it was cool to see that stuff, West Coast looks ridiculous and everyone's got their vibe and all that stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Nice. Well, thank you, man, for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man.
Just good catching up with you and chatting, of course, a little football for the season. Of course, all the other, stuff that we touched on. So good stuff, man. And
appreciate the invite. Big K, good to see you again,
brother. Having you, man.
We'll see you over on Klaz's channel in like 15-20 minutes.
Indeed.
Yes, sir. Catch y'all later.
See you.
Later, brother.
And then there were 2. So we got like 15 minutes to go. And you mentioned the London event. Can you tell us about that? And
that was,
I guess, how it was received. The highest of stakes was received over there. I was hearing like London, I guess is the main hub. But who did you meet? How I think you did a meet and greet. Tell us all about it.
We did it. So we did a meet and greet. We have a whole bunch of pictures from it. I'm sure if there's any UK, Hexicans that were out at it, I've had some people already reach out and be like, "Where are the photos?" We're getting there. I just was gonna do some edits and make them look a little cleaned up, and then put I don't know, maybe like a photo drop box or something so that everyone can just see them because it's like a couple hundred pictures. We had a lot of people out. We definitely. It was the biggest screen that I've seen the highest stakes on, so that was cool because we sold out the London theater and they moved it to a few days beforehand to a bigger theater, so it was like a 350 person theater that it wasn't fully they didn't fully sell out the bigger theater, but I mean almost. I would think
you had to move to it, so that's good.
Yeah. So that was awesome. I think there's like maybe 60 seats because it was still super full in there, which was awesome, and that they got a great response. I think that the fact that, man, I'd say 2/3 of everyone stayed through the comment section, and we had a Q&A with me afterwards, and I had a lot of good questions. We stayed mostly on movie topics, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, that part was awesome. That was a super cool experience. And I hope that I got to answer anybody's questions that, they had some good questions along the way. So, that was enjoyable. The pictures were enjoyable. Meeting them. I ran into several Hexicans that had been there at the 731 party back, 2 years ago. Yeah. So that was cool to, do some Where Are We Nows. But I mean, they're still coming out to the movies. So that's a good sign. We definitely had a great time. I think everyone enjoyed. I don't think anybody left. Everybody, when I was shaking hands on the way out, everyone was in smiles. So I don't think anyone, no one, I think water splashed on me by anybody or anything. So no negativity that I felt. But I mean, but I think like I said, it was a fun time for me overall. And seeing it on that, working my way up to the movie release was in Miami was awesome because of all everybody that I got to see there and experience that with was super fun. But then seeing it with Hexicans that were super excited in such a big setting was pretty stellar. So yeah.
So what's next? Anything, I guess no more showings. That phase could be done now, or are we just
yes. Well, I mean, there are other people that have expressed interest in something, and you see, there's been a lot of people internationally that would love to see it, but there's costs involved with that. So I think that last time I had talked to the highest stakes people, we had considered like, putting some kind of idea together of like, hey, what would it cost to get the ratings done to be able to launch in 5 cities or 10 cities, that, if there's concentrated enough Hexicans that want to see it before we can get it out in
the Australian market.
Yeah.
Like a Sydney or something. I think they'd
show
up.
And so that's just, but that's all interim until it's like on a platform that we can all, enjoy. And that,
plus it'd be a cool marketing tag to just be like, hey, we sold out cities in like 4 or 5 continents. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But, it would be awesome. That would be super cool because we got
London.
We got London. We got we get Sydney. We got 3 continents. That'd be super awesome. It would be. I mean, like, and we definitely did. We cracked the top 20 sales of on our opening weekend. I didn't really get numbers back from the second weekend. I was too busy getting excited about London and everything else. But I know we did pretty decently overall. So like it was thrilling to to get it out to people. Now hopefully that'll translate in and we'll see it. And, and again, on the back end, it takes a little bit of time for deals to be worked out and then launches to happen and streaming platforms. So, hopefully your Thanksgiving miracle is, will be also in, something clickable for people.
Okay.
And
I wasn't even
that would be great,
but that as even a possibility, but yeah, I'm down.
I mean, it would be good timing if we could get it out in people's faces around when there might be actually something in the news about, cases moving forward or anything, too. So
exactly the second half of the Thanksgiving miracle that I so long for now. So let's get like a settlement and then a drop and then off we go.
That would be great.
Back into the bull market.
Yes.
Speaking of back into the bull market, let's just talk the orange coin for a second. So it's been like stuck in this range between like 31K, which I guess Richard called that top on a while back, the local top, and down to about 25K. We've been here since March, I guess.
Yep.
Which way does this resolve? We're right on the 40 week, or we bounced off the 40 week. Do we go lower? Does this break and we visit that 20K area one more time? Or is
if they keep raising I read the thing today that Paul said, brace yourself for more interest rate hikes. So like if they keep raising the rates, then I think we see, at least in the short term, I think we see this chart continue to roll over. And I think that we just, I don't think that like there's anything. I mean, even ETFs and all the other stuff, which is still confusing to some people, isn't necessarily going to get people to spend their money when they don't have the right, overall macro incentive to. I mean, it's just not us. It's in that regard, or crypto, and in that regard, it's stocks. It's anything that is a risk-on asset is going to do problematic for the next until they stop, cutting off the, squeezing the money supply, so like they stop that, maybe they print some more soon eventually, then, we can do things. But like, until then, I don't see like all that, like the government's buying and BlackRock's buying and all this stuff's buying. That's fine. Then people are like, well, I do have, retirement vehicles for all that. So like, I just don't see where the incentive is going to come in the short term for, this to go much, much higher until we turn around the interest rates. So, I don't like to say that. I'm not like, yay, more downside, but I being honest,
which is the side that Kareem is on. He posted some in-depth analysis on his Twitter account. I think it was earlier this week, which is interesting to read. So you have basically his side, which says we go lower. He says 15 still in the cards to retest that low. I think that might be a little too far downside, but I can certainly see like a sub 20 once more flush. And
the
then
nice thing is the more of us that's that are talking heads that come up with the same idiot answer for it, and the more we all say down, eventually that means that we can't all be right forever. So eventually we'll be wrong. And I welcome that. So, yeah, you're saying.
No, it's just every 4 years in crypto, I feel like we're here. Like we feel like we're coming out of it, and then we get one last shakeout. Last time it was COVID. Obviously that was like black swanish, but this one, I think we could get one last shakeroo. I mean, April or May or whenever the halving is a long ways away. It's like 8-9 months, so that's an eternity from now. One more chart I wanted to bring up is this ETH one. So if Bitcoin breaks, then unfortunately this nice little ETH chart is going to break. But I did find this interesting just looking at this before we came on. So this is the past, I don't know, since 2021, so the past 2 years, and it's like, okay, just cool chart, and it came down to touch this support line. Well, the reason I drew that support line is we got to go back a ways, and that support line goes all the way back to 2016. So interesting there. I just found that really interesting because I wasn't
even if we just get some relief on it, it's still a cool. I like it. I mean, I'll take it. But yeah, I mean, it's
you think
those are
ETH
some multi-year
outperforms the corn this cycle? There's a lot of argument there, or
I mean, it very well could. I mean, more stuff is there's considerable more usage going on in that area than, I mean, than the ordinal stuff is new and cool on Bitcoin, but I don't think it feels pretty 4 years behind, so I mean, like I said, I don't think that it won't do well, but like, I also am just worried about like all the larger institutional investment. Like, I just don't think retail wins and all that. So, I mean, maybe it does. I think I'd like to believe it does. I'd like to believe that this is a good opportunity for Ethereum to outperform. That would be great. That would be great. No, but I mean, like I said, I still think that chart is going to feel it's going to be tested as severely come, these next two probably interest rate hikes that we see over the next couple months.
Yeah, and those were, I guess, price drops counting, wicks. They're on the weekly though. That was a weekly chart. I'd like to use weeklies and monthlies. But it's the support's still there, but there charts like that even break every now and then, and I foresee that one breaking as well, although I mean that little support line has held for a long time. You have also the chartists that go only by the closing prices and stuff like that, so there's tons of ways to read a chart. But anyway, you mentioned ETH outperforming. Something else on ETH that's been outperforming lately, even though it's got a lot of catch up to do, is this EHEX price here. Posted by Meltoni, kindly, thank you, sir. So PHEX was 2-to-1 for a while, and now we've closed it. Obviously, you can see it here. It's not 2-to-1 anymore, far less. What do you think that is a product of? Just the Pulsechain skepticism? Perhaps it's like harder for some, harder in quotes, to sell on ETH because it's harder to navigate around Uniswap for some, and you think those things have something to do with it, or is there something bigger here going on?
I don't know about any of that. I mean, it's when you get lower in price like this, because of the way liquidity works, it gets harder to push things. Just like it gets harder to push things up super high, it gets harder to push them down much lower, than when there is still support there. So like, I it's fun to see. I mean, maybe parity at some point in time. I don't know. But there's still a lot of sell pressure that I think that EHEX has that is to be paid attention to as well. I don't know. What do I know, man? It's crazy.
There's a reasonable theory people from Ian here. People who first sold their EHEX and now they're selling their PHEX.
Yeah, there's people who are already questionable about the ecosystem, probably going into the Pulse thing and everything, that might be selling their other side too, for sure. That's totally possible. I don't know. I'm not like forensically checking it out regularly, and there is less liquidity than there was before. That's for sure. And if you like, the liquidity on Ethereum versus Pulse is significantly different too. So, you know, careful when you are making your swaps wherever you can. It's exciting.
Yeah, and also make sure, you know, you're, you know, V1 versus V2 or vice versa, depending upon what coin you would like to trade, because slippage is even more magnified.
There are people working on routing solutions, you know. Yay to that. More of that is good, especially when we live in a fragmented liquidity world, when everyone's going to be placing their liquidity. I mean, it was such a nice time when it was just, there's Uniswap V1 and Uniswap V2, and that was it, you know. But now there's little pockets of liquidity everywhere, you know. So being diligent is pretty important. That's for sure.
Ian asks, are we seeing any emergency end stakes? Any tracker for that? I mean, really, I just follow WhaleHex on Twitter. Grabs.
Yeah, and if you want to go back and look, you can really easily just go on like the Hex website and look at the like payout per day, you know, on that chart, and you'll see the blips upward where we had some larger days. I mean, there have been a few, you know, but I mean, nothing like some of the giant ones we have had. You know, I think there was like a 10x day probably in the past month, a couple months or so. But
I think we did it. That might have been the last show.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we got PHUX, Portal X, like all sorts of DEX solutions coming. How do you say it? Piteous or Piteas?
I don't know. I like.
I'm trying to find. I need to get the devs on, but yeah, they also congrats to them. They recently completed their SAC phase already with a working product, mind you. So I thought that was pretty darn cool that what they had was out there for everyone to use and play with, and you know, they just completed that. And last I saw, for people to interact with maybe some coins, could be a week away. So that's exciting for those of you out there who may or may not have sacked for that Pulsechain project.
There is a lot of projects on Pulsechain, that is for sure.
And we're just like waiting. So I mean, if like, you know, I was saying at the beginning of the show, if we get, you know, I know, you know, we have what 90% of dudes in crypto, probably close to in Hex, although we have probably maybe a lot more women in Hex. So maybe bump that down to 85% dudes. You know, guys are like, you know, fight. You know, but as WaLLrus was saying, like at some point, like that makes sense to, you know, have dialogue, not his words directly, but, and possibly have a settlement rather than this go on for years and years and your chain become solely irrelevant. Or
we don't want to miss the next bull market, guys. So like, let's get this. We don't want to lose a turn here. You know, we're not trying to, you know, not pass go. So let's get it over with as fast as possible.
Agreed. Sure. I think it's Piteous. Okay, Piteous. Like it.
I like it.
Stables launching and loan protocols may prevent people from selling. There's also
I mean, you got to have people that know how to use it too, man.
Yes.
So like you're talking mirroring, and you know, bringing intelligence.
Careful the toys that get pulled out of the basket.
So yes,
some could be blunt instruments.
Some are sharp, some are small. You know, just choking hazards involved. It can be dangerous.
Yeah. It is 6 o'clock. That's our hour. I did want to run through a couple questions we got in the chat. Russ, no, you did not miss the Cody chat that's been delayed for a while. Funding Jim, being the awesome, I guess, networker that he is traveling the globe, and he's actually the harder one to track down. And you know, once he settles down a bit, maybe in a few weeks, you know, we'll get him on with Cody. I just thought that would be a good overall discussion. I don't think it's necessarily going to be just Hex related. It's going to be about SEC, overall crypto markets, like regulation and stuff like that. So I think there'll be a cool conversation. And the last question I had was from Sweet Aussie. Yes, faster than dial-up internet. I changed some things on my end and some settings, and I believe, I've been keeping an eye on the YouTube, and it's looked pretty darn good this whole show. So I think I may have fixed the issue. Another couple shows, and we'll confirm that the issues are fixed. So Crypto Stylist, what's going on? Catching happy hour just in time for one drink. Well, one could lead to two, but
it's true.
Happy you joined us for one. That being said, Big K, any words for the weekend as we wrap up here? Where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me here. You can find me on Telegram. You can find me on Twitter. At Big Krakowski. I don't know. That's about it. Maybe me and Freddie get together. We do a little, steak and bake sometime soon. Maybe that.
Yes,
fun like
you have the steak and bake. The Hexagon football drafts are coming up soon.
Soon Hexagon football drafts. I think we'll have some new, a couple of new participants.
Excellent.
So that's exciting.
And Freddie Quotes, I think, might be doing a Hexagon football show with Black Hexagon. Maybe coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I definitely will try to tune in and or participate in that. We need something to entertain us through however many months this is going to be. Hopefully just a Thanksgiving miracle away, but you never know.
Fingers crossed.
All right. This is fine. Everything is fine. All right. Well, that'll wrap us up for this week. Thanks, Big K, for giving me a shout and getting us together to do this, man. Had a good time. And having WaLLrus here was
quite a bit. His wealth of knowledge, so it was fantastic.
Yes. And haven't talked to him in a minute except on Spaces, so it was good to see him with that stogie just chilling and spitting the knowledge. All right, well, that'll do it for us this week. Again, as we mentioned before, head on over to Crypto Claz, CLAZ. She's got said WaLLrus and a Sloth, and I believe Raquel and Hot Preel. And yeah, go check it out right now. I believe they just started, and we will see you next week. Cheers, everybody.